the occult, right? I'll play it to the Discord a little bit. I'm trying to figure out how to do the professor thing. By the way, once again, this was all inspired by predictive history. A great man, Jordan Beijing Peterson. And the smart board may become a reality. We have a sponsor who wants to get me one of those smart boards that he has. If you know the exact smart board he uses, or one that could be good for this size, we could do the show on. We could watch videos on these. I could stand, I could write. We could do a whole thing. If you know the make and model, the Discord hasn't been able to find it yet, but if you know the make and model of the one Jordan Beijing Peterson uses, please email me. Let me know, and I'll send it to the sponsor, and maybe we can get that rolling here a little bit. But people are liking the whiteboard stuff, so I guess I have to briefly explain okay, here, let's start here. What does Apocrypha mean? It's so hard to spell without, like, I'm spelling in front of a group of people and I'm spelling without spell check. And I type very quickly and I don't care if words are misspelled, and I've suffered the consequence of it greatly. All my text to people, I see that they're all wrong. I don't care. I just send it. I'm way too impatient. So this is the Apocrypha. Now this just means, this is Jewish. How far are we going here? All it means is hidden. That's all it means. Or hidden or secret, which interestingly enough, come on, focus, Ben. Very similar to, this is, I believe this is Hebrew. I'll look it up. Actually, I think it's Greek. And then occult, I believe, is Latin. Let me see. Apocrypha is, let's see here. Yeah, I want to know its literal meaning, though. I don't want to know its literal. To hide away in the Greek. So this is Greek. I was right about that. And then occult means, secret or hidden. So they're very similar words. This has nothing to do with the apocalypse or anything. That's very confusing for people, I think, in terms of, because there's so many texts that are the Apocrypha. This just means it didn't make it into the accepted canon. So one of the books that is considered the Apocrypha is this. It's the Book of Enoch. Now, here's the thing. As someone who was raised very Christian and had to read the Bible all the time, I have no idea who this is. Nobody. And this guy is mentioned in Genesis almost immediately. Enoch, it's very quickly said, I don't know why I didn't know this. It said he walked with God. He was basically taken immediately, and he lived 365 years. Now, it says very briefly at the beginning of Genesis that his son was Methuselah, which we talked about last week. Methuselah was his son. This is all mentioned in Genesis. So this is a real guy that he gave birth to him, and he was his dad, and his dad was this, and here was his son, and here's how long they lived. A lot of the Bible, especially the Old Testament, is really boring. It's like, this guy lived this long, and he gave birth to him. It's all about, because for the Jews, that's important, because you got to trace it all through DNA. So, son was Methuselah, who was the oldest man to ever live, supposedly. I think 3 or 4 people right after this, it said God didn't need to put the divine spirit into man anymore. So then the oldest man was only 120 years old after that. So that explains, like, well, because you're reading that, why don't people live 1,000 years anymore? It says God takes some sort of divine spirit out of them. So this is basically the context for everything. Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, or Seth, all the way down to here to Enoch. So it does briefly say in Genesis, it confirms that he was taken to heaven at 365 years old. That's a weird number too, because in the book of Enoch, there's a whole thing with 365 days in a year and the calendar that we're given. But let me find this. So let's erase this now. So it's very important to point out that the book of Enoch, that this apocrypha here, this is not accepted by Jews either. There are no Jews that like this book. None. This was appreciated during the and please stop me if I'm wrong. This was appreciated during the intertestamental period. Okay, so I believe Malachi is the last book in the Old Testament. He's the last prophet that Jews accept was a prophet. I believe that ends around like 400 BCE. Right, we understand Christ was born, what was it, like 4 AD, 5 AD, something like that? 400 BCE until Christ, right? Basically. This is the intertestamental period right now. This is when the book of Enoch was written, even though it claims it's an older, it takes place much before that, right? But this book was very important during this time. We know this because people like Jude and other people in the New Testament make reference to it. Now, that's just establishing the credibility for the book of Enoch. There is one group, I should say real quick, there's one group of Jews that actually accept the book of Enoch as canon. I think they call them rabbinical texts or non-rabbinical texts. Like, what do the rabbis decide is in the Tanakh, right? Jews don't fuck with this YN right here. All right? They don't fuck with them. But there's one group of Jews that do. There's one group of Jews that do. These motherfuckers right here. I bet you didn't know about these YNs. They accept this as canon. You see that? Ethiopian Jews. Now these guys, Ethiopian Jews, they're darker than Jews. I know that's surprising. They are darker than Jews. They are from, so you have to understand that the 12 tribes of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel, these come from Jacob. His father was Isaac, and his father was Abraham. Abraham was the first Jew, right? We know this. Abraham probably lived, I'm trying to remember. I know Moses was probably like 1400 BCE, I think. So Abraham was before him. It doesn't matter. What's important is that from the 12 tribes of Israel, these guys are made a diaspora, okay? These 12 tribes. They're made a diaspora when in about 700 BCE, Nebuchadnezzar II, the king, he comes into Israel and he fucks them all up. He fucks these bitches up and he scatters them and he goes, he comes in here. He comes into Israel. He's like, you are all a bunch of Jews. You got to go. I don't like Jews. No Jews. Kicks them out. This is the historical record this is the Babylonian rule, right? Then, in like, I think it's like and then all these dates aren't going to be exact, but around like here is what I remember, like 490 BCE. And again, if I had a smart board, I could actually have PowerPoints and stuff and be accurate with these dates. But I think it was like maybe 150 years later or something, a motherfucker comes along named Cyrus the Great. Now stop me if I'm being retarded. He comes in. He's Persian. He comes into Israel. He defeats Nebuchadnezzar, throws them out, and he goes, Jews are allowed back in. So he has a big banner. Here, I'll write this out. So then Cyrus the Great has a big banner that says, he writes a big banner in Israel, and he says, welcome home, Jews. Welcome home. So Jews are allowed back into Israel. Now, there's only 2 tribes that are allowed back into Israel. It's actually the 2 tribes that make it back in are Benjamin and Judah. Okay, and if you're a real Jew, you actually know which tribe you come from. These are the 2 tribes. The other 10, lost tribes of Israel. There's a whole bunch of motherfuckers that are lost to the sands of time. These 10, they don't make it back. Only these Jews make it back. The tribes of Benjamin and Judah. Now, some of the Jews we can actually supposedly trace through DNA and everything else. Some of them are Palestinian, but you didn't hear that from me. There's a reason they don't do DNA testing in Israel. You can look that up if you want. But one of the tribes of Israel, are we still on YouTube, by the way? I'm saying a lot of things I probably shouldn't. The tribe of Dan finishes in Ethiopia. There we are. So now you have Ethiopian Jews, but they're not going off of what the tribe of Benjamin and Dan, or tribe of Benjamin and Judah are doing. They're doing their own fucking thing down there, man. They're down there. You got to remember that the Israelites, dude, they come out of Egypt. They come down here. They wander down here. This is Mount Sinai. Mount Sinai. It's a big-ass fucking mountain down here. They come down here. Moses gets the 10 commandments, right? Commandments. They wander the desert for 40 years. They come back up here, and then they go into Israel. The Babylonian shit happens. Cyrus the Great lets them back in. Only 2 tribes make it. But so some of these they settle down, and that's the tribe of Dan here. Now these are like I don't want to say they're black Jews, but they're kind of like black Jews. Now here's the cool motherfucking thing about these Ethiopian Jews. Here's the cool thing about these brothers. First of all, they weren't accepted into Israel until like 1970 something. They had to fight for a seat at the table. You know, the whole Israel return to home thing. They finally got the right to return back to Israel if they want to. There's only like 150,000 of them. They don't matter. Jews only make up 0.2% of the population. There's like 15.8 million people of them. I'm just going off the word of Google. I haven't counted them. I'm not the guy counting Jews, but they're 0.2% of the population, and they're 99% of conversation these days. So the Ethiopian Jews love the Book of Enoch. But what is the Book of Enoch? And why don't the Jews like it? Well, let's talk about it. Let's break it down. What the fuck happens in this book? So a lot of it's really boring and it sucks ass and is gay. But let's talk about the linear narrative of this. So you have to understand that there is a difference between archangels, which our friends in the Catholic Church are well aware of because you guys pray to these guys. And again, stop me once I'm wrong. Stop me once I'm wrong. You guys keep me in check. There's the archangels, okay, which we know about if we read the Bible. I didn't know from the Book of Enoch that we have these things called the Watchers. Okay, now the thing about the Watchers, so this is like Gabriel, Raphael, there's like some others, right? There's this group called the Watchers. I was raised in the church, went to church for 3 days a week, all the time. All the time. I've never heard of this. Never heard of this. these watchers who are in heaven, they have a bunch of names. There's a bunch of them. They see, once God creates the earth, that men are going around and they're impregnating women and having beautiful. So this is a watcher. I'm just gonna draw like a guy like that, like a weird, like alien guy, just looking down from heaven, doing this, going, very good, very good. He's up in a cloud. He's looking down at the earth here, and he sees that men. I think it's a group of about 200 of them, but there's 20 or so who are like the highest council. They're looking down at earth, going, "Damn, there's some fine ass down there." Now I'm going to show you. Let's go through the actual verse here, because you can see. Because I actually have a theory that they're pedophiles. Now, I haven't read interpretations of this text, so I don't know how far I'm off. So you're kind of looking through the lens of me right now. So, see, get me in here. So basically, chapter 2 is the creation, and it's all from the point of view of Enoch, who's having these. Basically, the book of Enoch is this warning where he sees the future, and he also sees that a flood is going to come and wipe away the earth. But also he sees like the future of the rebuilding of the temple and Jerusalem and everything. So here we go, fallen angels. And it came to pass when children of men had multiplied, that in those days were born unto them beautiful and comely daughters. Okay, that's very weird. And the angels, the children of heaven, saw and lusted after them and said to one another, "Come, let us choose wives among the children of men and beget us children." And Semjaza, who's one of the watchers, who was their leader, said unto them, "I fear ye will not indeed agree to do this deed, and I alone shall have to pay the penalty of a great sin." And they all answered him and said, "Let us all swear an oath and all bind ourselves to mutual imprecations, not to abandon this plan, but to do this thing." And they swear they all together and bound themselves by mutual imprecations upon it, and they were all, in all 200, who descended in the days of Jared, blah, blah, blah. Here are their names. Who cares? Who gives a shit? Their names are like, whatever, Ananel, whatever. And all the others together with them took unto themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. Okay, so they... these guys, let's call them what they are. They're pedophiles. These guys, these are all pedophiles. Boom, boom. They're looking down and they're seeing like little kids and stuff. Wee, and they're going, damn. They go down. What they do is they be pedophiles and stuff. And they have children with all of them. Now, here's the important thing about the children. Is that they all pick for themselves a child bride, essentially. And they make something called the Nephilim. Now, I know it looks like Nephilim, but it's Nephilim. I took the time to actually look up how it's pronounced. You're welcome. Now you can't spurg out in the chat. So the Nephilim, this is Hebrew for giant. That's all it means. That's all. Every time you hear this in like some weird comment section of a Sean Ryan YouTube video, all it is this, is giants. And here's the cool thing about these guys. It says it says, and they became pregnant and they bare great giants. And they became pregnant and they bare great giants. And hold on, sorry, the text is cutting off. I didn't realize that. Hold on. Sorry, guys. Fuck. Shit. Here we go. For the others together took themselves wives, and each chose for himself one. They began to go unto them and defile themselves with them. Defile, which it's like, okay, it doesn't sound, I don't know, man. It sounds like they're pedophiles to me. They taught, hold on. And they became pregnant and they bare great giants, the Nephilim, whose height was 3,000 ells. Okay, so you're wondering, okay, giants, what are we talking? Like